Greetings. Today I wanted to discuss how you and I, as community ecology and RBE advocates, can communicate our ideas to a perhaps less informed audience in an effective and persuasive manner. This is an area that I feel advocates can struggle with sometimes, and so I'd like to give my input. And so here is my 5 tips for communicating and raising awareness of RBEs and community ecology. The first and arguably the most important tip I can give, after you've introduced yourself and provided some context, is to actually stop communicating for a second and try to listen and understand where people are coming from, what they think of the world around them, what issues impact them and perhaps people they know or even their community. Not only does this show that you're interested in what other people have to say, not only is it a sign of respect either, as much as those two things would make people more receptive to your viewpoint. When you listen to people, you gain an understanding of their viewpoints and ideas that they might have, and this can prime you for how to go forward in framing your dialogue. This could even be advantageous to you because it might give you the opportunity to pounce on a particular issue that your audience cares about and apply your theory to that. And when you eventually go on to explain how an RBE would solve that particular issue, those ideas start to resonate. Perhaps somewhat tied to the end of my last point, the second tip I'd like to give, in terms of communicating RBEs and similar ideas, is tailoring your dialogue to your audience. You may find out that some members of your audience are more technical than others. They might be involved in science or engineering or some other discipline. Now in these scenarios you can go into more detail. You can talk about vertical farming and energy, automation, all that kind of stuff. But your average individual is perhaps not going to be interested in all of that. So in these scenarios it's best to simplify things a bit and encourage people to do their own research and perhaps even provide sources for future reference. Now a potential danger of encouraging people to do their own research on these topics is that they might get the wrong end of the stick and they might think that an RBE is something that which it is not. And the best thing you can do to counter this is provide them with credible sources that you have reviewed and can give them a good understanding of community ecology and RBEs as a concept. Now when it comes to resource-based economies and similar ideas, some people are going to like it and some people are going to object and or have critiques of the ideas. And so my third point is about addressing this. Now you will find as you talk to more and more people, you tend to run into a lot of the same counter-arguments. And as frustrating as it might be to hear the same thing a million times, it's best to nonetheless listen. Now of course it's important to be patient with people as they're expressing their concerns and to respond in a way that appreciates people's questions. This can mean keeping your response relevant to the actual question, and even things like avoiding antagonism, even in circumstances where a counter-argument frustrates you. Like if you've had to refute it many times before, or the argument is intellectually dishonest or what have you. In general, a good way to address critique is to give hypothetical instances of how an RBE would fare better than a current system, or how an RBE would deal with something better than the current system. Perhaps even talking about how things analogous to RBEs already exist today, and how that could be expanded in scope and scale. When you relate an RBE to something that people are already familiar with in today's context, it makes resource-based economies and similar ideas easier to conceptualize in the minds of other people. Now this point about critique leads me to my fourth tip for communicating RBEs, and that is to not sound too utopian. It's quite common for RBE advocates to get called utopians by other people, and this is an unfortunate side effect of advocating for a society and a system that is inherently better than the one we have now. It's best, in my view, to explain community ecology and resource-based economies in a materialist way. That is, explaining how we can get from point A to point B, how we can get from where we are now to where we want to be in the future. And this involves recognizing the potential barriers that we might face during a potential transition into such a system. When you give a clear message as to how we can get from where we are now to a resource-based economy, as opposed to providing vague or wishy-washy platitudes, people are more likely to take you more seriously and are also more likely to take in the ideas being presented to them. And it's also important to explain why the current paradigm is a problem and how different facets of an RBE would address the inherent issues of the current system. Which brings me to my final point: how to begin dialogue with people about RBEs and also critique of the current system. There are specific issues that most people are aware of, but they don't know exactly why it's happening or what would be the best way to alleviate the issue. Planned obsolescence is a good example, because when you bring up planned obsolescence, it gets people to think critically about the dynamics of the profit motive and how it is in fact a perverse incentive for much of the economic activity we see today. This also applies to issues like climate change, which I'm sure everyone knows about. The bottom line here is getting people to understand the root causes of these issues, which may, in us as advocates' favour, lead them down a path of critical thinking that will see them disillusioned with the current paradigm. With these few pointers I have given, I hope that you, as an RBE advocate, feel more equipped and more ready to communicate our ideas to newcomers or those who are previously unaware. I've got more stuff on the way, but for now, that's all from me. If you like the work I do on this channel and want to support me, then you can subscribe and turn on the notification bell. Sharing helps the channel grow and gain exposure, as well as the ideas expressed in these videos. As always, stay safe everyone, and I'll catch you all next time.